Hello again. I'm back to my Yamaha. Yeah, that carburetor I was messing with. At last got, I hope, the right parts. Yeah. Believe it or not, in this bag there's 4 little O-rings. Each one of them is $10 a piece. Yeah. Kind of expensive, I think. But if it'll make my motor quit flooding, I'm all set. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Cross your fingers. Can you see that? Is it backwards? It looks backwards to me, but maybe it isn't to you. Anyway, it's a 62Y143840. Made in Japan. That little guy. I'm just going to lay it up there and see if it looks halfways. Oh, come on now. The same. Look at that. It's going to fit. That's the bowl off my 50 horse Yamaha Outboard. I think I've already got a picture of this, but just to be safe, this is where the gas comes in. Whoops, right there. It tees and it goes another carburetor. But it also goes in this hole. See this hole right there? Alright, well they're supposed to go pass right straight through that hole and go in here and have the float control the flow of gas into this carburetor. And the only thing that keeps that gas from bypassing the float through this hole, that why it's there I don't know, is this right here. See this? This fits on here like that. See? And you got pressure coming in here. Well, I believe that's where I was losing that gas, because when I first started it up, it would start up and run perfect for about a minute, and then it'd start acting funny, and then the more I used it, the worse it got, until this carburetor just started flowing out gas everywhere, and of course it flooded that one cylinder. And when I took it apart, I cleaned this up a little bit, but this gasket was all white, kind of a grayish white all around here. And I believe that over the years, and because my tank was pressurizing itself, it actually found a way to go through that little gap. See that little tiny gap right there? Look how thin that is. That wouldn't take much for that to leak through there. And if it starts leaking through there, the float is useless. The float would be turned off, but it's still coming in there and flooding it. So that's what I'm counting on. I'm going to clean this base off a little bit right there. I'm going to take this gasket out of here and put the new one in, and right or wrong, I'm going to coat it real lightly with some silicone. I just don't trust it anymore. I'm only going to do the one carburetor, the one that's leaking. I know that's kind of sounds crazy, but I want to know that I'm fixing the problem. Okay? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn the camera around, let you watch me do it if you're interested. But it's going to be a simple thing. I'm just going to clean this off a little bit, just a rag and some solvent. Clean it off. Take this gasket out of here first and then clean it off. Coat the new one, put it on there, put this carburetor back together. All right? Okay. Get this First I want to get this out of here, the old one. It's stiff. See the difference? This one's all flat. This one's nice and round and flexible, and this one's all stiff. See? Look at the difference. I'm just going to take my screwdriver and go through that groove there. Try to make sure that everything's somewhat clean. Some of that old gas out of there. Spray it down with some brake cleaner, carb cleaner, whatever you want to use. Notice the base of this is kind of rough. Go along there and clean that off. Scotch-Brites. I'm just going to rub it real easy. I don't want to scratch it, but I don't want to leave a film of dirt on it. Well, this could have been leaking for months for all I know. Now I'm just going to kind of use this to flush it, brake parts cleaner. I know you should have gloves on, but I'm too old to worry about it. Same way with this one, the other half. I'll bet there is a 2/1000th of an inch between that O-ring and this bowl, and that gas pressure is right there. So if you got a plastic tank, make sure it vents, because I guess it'll build up a lot of pressure. And I'm sure that once it started leaking, that was it. I don't know if you can see it, but it's discolored. So I'm definitely going to use a little bit of silicone. I mean a little bit. Just enough to make it greasy. But first, I'm going to go ahead and get this all assembled like I want it. Oops. My gas light fell off. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put the float back on, hit the float needle on here, get it tightened down, get it ready to put together. So as soon as I put that O-ring in there, I'm going to stick it together. I don't want that silicone to start getting hard before I have time. It won't get hard, but it'll get tacky. See, there's that gas line comes in here, goes straight across there into the float, and that's all it stops. It's that stupid O-ring right there. All right. Fits in there like this. And then there's a little screw that just the shoulder of the screw holds that in there. Alright. So the way that goes. We've already tested this, remember? That's what this hose was on here for. I'll stick it on there again just for grins. Since this has got a T, I have to plug the one that's going to the next carburetor, and I have to plug that hole that I'm thinking was leaking. And then I want to blow on this air. Okay. Whew. I'll make you dizzy. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that new gasket on here, and it's got little like a little ledge right there to make it fit tight so it won't fall off. So when you go to put it on, it won't fall off. There's my new $10 gasket. Let me go get some silicone. This is what I'm going to coat that gasket with, just a tiny bit of it, okay? I mean a little bit. I just want to be able to feel it and not see it. This is what I'm doing. I'm just making it gray. I want to turn this, basically this part right here, yeah. I know. If I ever try to take it apart again, I'll have to buy a new gasket. I bought 4 of them, just in case. Okay, so now, make sure I'm going in the right way. The most important thing to me right now is this spot right here, so I'm going to make sure that it goes in without stretching it. Alright, I'm just going to work my way around here. I don't want to stretch this, I want it to fit in there nice and even. Make sure that it's seated. Work my way around. Okay, so there you go. Now I'm going to put it on there. I'm not going to waste any time. I want it to be sticky when I put it on there. Make sure that everything looks okay. And here we go. First I'm just going to snug these up, and then I'll go around crisscross pattern and tighten her down. So I'm just getting it snug. I'm going to go ahead and start across it. Crisscross. I'm hoping that this bowl isn't warped. I can feel the gasket pushing down now. It's kind of springy. Give me a better screwdriver here. Okay. Since this is where my problem started, I'm going to give it a good tweak. Okay, and I'm going to crisscross again. Now, if it's sealing, maybe I could put this stupid thing back together. So I'm going to put my gas air line back on here. Right. Remember, I have to plug this because now the bowl's down here. It should let air through. And I can blow air through it. Okay, so when I turn it over, it should just stop it. Oh, I gotta hold on. So far, I passed the air test, so we're going to put this baby back together. See if I can figure out how it all plumbs back together again. So that's the only thing I'm going to replace on this. I used a new tube because as tiny as that is, I wanted to make sure that I didn't have some dried up silicone. You know, if you reuse it again, you have to be kind of careful. This is a brand new tube, so I tighten that up good. I'm going to use that. It's worth the $5 or whatever it was. I forget how much it was, but it wasn't very much compared to other things. Good stuff, man. This will actually stand up to oil. Be gentle. Remember, this is little stuff. This isn't a big old Ford carburetor. All we're doing is trying to get that O-ring. There's an O-ring between the carburetor and the air box. And there's an O-ring between the carburetor and the intake. I have not replaced those. Luckily, they made it, not luckily, by design, they made it so I can tighten these up without doing a lot of work. And just look at it and make sure that there's no gaps under here. There's little tiny inserts right here to help you guide this carburetor and keep it straight. Make sure those slide down into the carburetor so that you know that you're not crushing it. As long as it took me to get that gasket, I sure don't want to break anything. All these carburetors seem to be exactly the same. I wasn't sure they'd be like that. I thought maybe one of them might be a different number, but they are all the same. The difference is it's got two of these. It's got this one. This is your what I consider an accelerator pump. Every time you push it forward to go, it gives it one shot of gas. Alright, so now I'm going to just make sure that these are snug. I'm holding the wrench so that it's kind of in the soft part of my hand, so it kind of warns me not to over torque them. There's probably a torque value, but I don't know what it is. I haven't got my tie wraps on here yet, but this, think of you as the motor. You're the motor. You're looking at it from the motor side. This is how I believe they're going to go on. I'll tell you later if it doesn't work. But you see what they're doing is they got the fuel pump actually has two outputs. So say if one output fails, and say the top one fails, well, the bottom one will still pump. They'll come pump it up to that carburetor, that carburetor, that carburetor. It'll T, go to this carburetor and that carburetor, and you can still get back home. And vice versa, the other way around. So it's one big loop. You got pumping in here, it's pumping in here. And then they're teeing off of these and going to these enrichers. These enrich valves, as far as I'm concerned, are causing a whole lot of trouble. So okay, so I've got this on there. I just got the bolts started by finger tight. All these bolts. and I had a hard time getting it in there. This gas line, bottom one, looks like it'd be the easiest to get in. Okay, this one has to go through that opening between the top cylinder, between the top two and the bottom two. Gas line comes through there, goes to the fuel pump. My problem was, I got a rag in my dipstick hole. But if you can see that gas line back there? I don't know if you can see it. Ah, there. Let me get a screwdriver. Point it out to you, or something. Okay, dadgummit. All right, right there. There's a gas line there. And that has to clear this part of the body. It makes it feel like you're putting it in wrong. What you have to do is just kind of push it out of the way, push it back. There's plenty of room back there once you get it to clear, once you get it in place. All right. Then before you tighten anything up, just run the throttle through, make sure there's nothing hanging up. Okay, I haven't got those bolts tight, like I say. These bolts are just sitting in there with my fingers. And what I'll do is I'll get them all snug, then I'll just start tightening them up. All right, probably start in the middle, work my way out. That way, if anything's, but it's got locating sleeves in it, so once it snaps up in there, you're pretty much good to go. And just make sure you don't pinch any of these wires, and make sure these wires aren't sticking up. Remember, this is going to be spinning, so, and there's going to be a hose on here. So what you need is these two little enrichment wires, or whatever you want to call them. Heater wires, I guess you'd call them. You see that this, I don't know if this is what they put that on there for or not, but I'm going to use it for that. These will actually turn. And then just stick it on there just to hold it out of my way. And the bottom one is bringing it up here, and my wires hook up like this. It's basically two wires coming from my switch. They teed it off to go to two different ways, and that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up. Like I say, I'm going to probably start here, work my way up, and then I'll do the two center ones first and the end ones, and then I'll go back and test them all. And just like I said, kind of like I was telling you, these all are just O-rings. You're compressing an O-ring. You don't need to. You're not compressing a hard copper gasket. All you're compressing is an O-ring, so don't over tighten them. All right, so I got it all together, and as you can see, once you get it all together, even the top enrichment heater, whatever you want to call it, is covered up. You can't even see it, you know. So anyway, this is the one that I worked on. I'm going to make a little dot on it so I can remember. That's the one I put a new gasket in. All the rest of them are just like they were when I got the motor 10 years ago or whatever. Remember, this is a 2004. It's now, gee, it's 18 years old. It's an antique. Anyway, that's the one that I put a new gasket in. That's all I did to it. And I had it running for a few minutes, long enough to get the fuel pumping. And now I'm going to take it to the lake and see if it'll run. There's the good news. Boat's running smooth. Motor is. All the electrics work. Bad news is, got all these fish and I can't get a bite.